Hello everyone working from home today. This is Mr. Sexton. It's Monday, September 14th today. Our target today is that I would like you to be able to identify the main characteristics of insects at the conclusion of this lesson. As we're doing this, I would like you to be thinking about some common insects that you see around us. Maybe you saw them this weekend, maybe you saw them this summer, but what are some common insects that we see around here? We are going to be taking some notes on the characteristics of insects. If you would like to take these notes on a sheet of paper, now would be a great time to get out a piece of paper from your notebook or your binder, and then you'll have that available to you once we get into the notes. If you would like to try and take these notes in your iPad, we can do that using Notability. But you will probably need to set up the split screen on your iPad to do that while you are listening to the video. I'm going to set these notes up in Cornell note format, and in Schoology I have got a blank Cornell note form that you'll be able to use. It will always be there. So if you go to Schoology, and our course is science, I've got a folder there called Other Helpful Stuff, and this is going to have instructions for how to get into the textbook on your iPad. It's going to have a video for how to get to the textbook on your iPad, and it's got some other website logins that we'll use later in the year. But I also have a couple of blank forms on here that you can use when you need them. So I'm going to tap on the Cornell Note form. It's going to bring that up for me, and we need to send that over to Notability. Going to create a new note. I'm going to call this, very simply, I'm just going to call this Insect Notes. And I'm going to leave this in the unfiled notes subject for now because we are going to create a subject for science if you have not already. So, excuse me, if you have not, sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. If you have not already created a subject for each of your classes, I believe Mr. Lombard may have led you through some of this in math, but to create a folder for science, in Notability they call them dividers and subjects. So first we need to create a divider, and we'll call this, I'm just going to call this First Hour Science. So I've got a divider set up now, and in that divider I need to create a subject. And I'm going to call this subject Insects. Now as you can see, that did not go into the right divider, so I'm going to take insects. I pushed the edit button at the top of the screen. I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag it down into my First Hour Science divider. I've got that done. Now I'm going to go back to my unfiled notes, and I've got my insect notes at the top of the page there. I'm going to take that with my finger and I'm going to drag that down to the subject that I want it in. And so now I've got insect notes in my First Hour Science divider, in my insects subject. So I'm going to open that up, and I've got the Cornell Notes format set up here. If you are in Avid, this is something you definitely would have used last year. Some of you may have used it in other classes as well. So our learning target, or our topic, is insects. And this class would be science. If you'd like to put your period in there from your schedule, you can do that. Today's date is 9/14. And this would be page 1 of our notes. This will all fit on one page. It's not going to be a great deal of notes. The essential question we're going to be answering today in these notes is, what are the main characteristics of insects? So now we've got our Cornell Note formatted page set up with our targets and our questions. And now we're going to get into the notes. So we talk about what are the main characteristics that all insects have. And so we are going to be putting a diagram on here. So we'll start our diagram by drawing a circle. And then we're going to attach another oval to that circle. And an even longer oval after that one. And these are going to represent the main parts of an insect's body. Now we're going to start writing a list below this. We've got our diagram started, and we're going to label that as we go. So I'm going to fill in here all adult insects have. And I'm going to underline that just so it stands out a little bit more, because that's sort of the heading of my notes. So all adult insects, as you can see from our diagram, they have three body parts, or three main body parts. And those are the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. And looking at our diagram, you may be able to guess that the first one here, that is the head. The middle body part, that is the thorax. And the last one is the abdomen. And you may recognize some of these terms because these are some similar terms that are used to describe our body structures. We have a head. Your thorax is where your heart and lungs and many vital organs are, sort of the upper part of your chest, and then the abdomen is the lower part of your midsection where your intestines and stuff are located. The next characteristic that all adult insects have is they all have 6 legs when they are adults. Some of them, when they are not fully developed or full grown, they do not have 6 legs. If you think about a caterpillar, they do not have 6 legs. And so we can draw the 6 legs on our insect. The legs are always attached to the thorax. And I apologize for the crudeness of my drawing. I always tell kids that my wife is the art teacher, not me. But we can see here the representation that we've got 6 legs. They also all have 2 antennae. And sometimes the antennae are large and very noticeable. Other times they are quite small and you don't realize they're there at all. Next, they have large compound eyes. And you've probably seen photos of the eyes of a fly, and you can see the great number of lenses that they have there. I'm going to try to represent that here in my drawing. Also, dragonflies have very, very large compound eyes. They almost cover their entire head. And they need to be able to see very well because dragonflies hunt mosquitoes. The last thing we're going to put on our list of all adult insects is they have a hard outer shell that's called an exoskeleton. And you may have heard of that before also. An exoskeleton is a skeleton on the outside of something's body. We have what's called an endoskeleton because our skeleton is on the inside of our bodies. Exo means outside or outer, and endo, which we have, means inside. And this exoskeleton is made of a material called chitin, which is similar to the material that your fingernails are made of, but it's a little bit different. So these are the characteristics of adult insects that they all have. The last thing we are going to put on here is that there's one characteristic that most adult insects have, but not all. And this is something you may have noticed before. Most adult insects have 4 wings. There are some groups that they only have 2 wings. There are some groups where there's only there aren't any wings, and but the majority have 4 wings. So those are our main characteristics of adult insects. So things to remember as you're looking for insects is they've got the 3 main body parts and 6 legs. You might be thinking, well, a spider, that's an insect. Spiders actually only have 2 body parts, and they've actually got 8 legs. Now, coming back to the beginning of class, I said just be thinking about insects that you see around you. And so insects, we have a lot of them around here. They're very, very common. So I'm just going to go through a list of examples of insects. So I'm going to write examples here. So some examples: flies, those are insects. Bees, ants, and wasps, those are all insects. They are in the same category. Grasshoppers and crickets are insects. And dragonflies. And if you've ever noticed what look like very small dragonflies, those are actually called damselflies, but they are in the same insect group. We've talked a couple times about butterflies and moths. Any type of beetle, including the ladybug, is an insect. We also have a category that's called the true bugs, and those would be things like box elder bugs or stink bugs. Those are insects that we see around us. And there are many, many other examples. This is just 7 main categories here. With that, I hope you have a good day. I apologize for the length of this video. Hopefully you were able to take these notes on a sheet of paper or set up the split screen to take them in Notability. So that's going to wrap it up for me. and I hope you have a good day. Take care.